Good morning. This is Father Fish. I would like to talk with you today about a matter that is fundamental to fish keeping. Everyone who has a tank is or needs to be concerned about this matter. Very few people are, and even fewer people are able to achieve it. The issue is, what is a balanced tank? What is it? And how do we achieve it? What is a balanced tank? Well, on the simplest level, a balanced tank is a glass box with water in it that has a fish in it. Theoretically, that's a balanced fish, a balanced tank. That can be stable as long as it can be stable. It can be healthy for as long as it is healthy. And it can keep the fish alive for as long as it keeps it alive. And for so long as all of that's going on, it can be said to be a balanced tank. But is that a balanced tank? I claim it's not. A balanced tank is far more than that. A balanced tank is a tank that replicates natural systems. Now, how do you replicate natural systems except by creating natural systems? If you create a synthetic system, you can't have a natural one. If you've got a tank full of gravel and plastic plants, it is impossible to have a balanced tank. If you have a tank with a bare bottom, you're not going to have a balanced tank. If you have a tank where you change the water every week, 50%, 75%, 100%, that's not a balanced tank. Most people who keep fish, even people who keep fish for many, many, many years, do not have balanced tanks. They have tanks that require constant intervention. Going in there and doing something on a regular and routine basis, that is not a balanced tank. A balanced tank, let me put it to you bluntly, a balanced tank is a tank that will remain relatively unchanged, relatively stable for month after month after month after month with little or no attention on the aquarist's part. If it can be set up and forgotten, it will balance itself and maintain itself as a balanced tank. A balanced tank is one in which all of the systems work in cooperation with all of the other systems. Now, when I talk about systems, I'm not talking about filters and lights and water exchange systems and CO2 injection. That's not what a system is. A system is water, substrate, plants, fish, and whatever food is involved. 5 systems. The 5th one is the only one that requires relatively consistent intervention. So let's just talk about the 4. Water, substrate, plants, and fish. Water, substrate, plants, and fish. Which is the most important? The substrate. Water is not the most important. The substrate is most important. Now, what is important about substrate that makes it possible to establish a balanced tank? You ever been to a pond? You ever been to a creek or a river or a bay or an ocean? What's on the bottom? What's on the bottom? And how deep is that bottom? Is it an inch deep? Is it bare? sitting on solid rock, or what's worse, glass? Is it an inch deep? Or is it many, many, many feet deep? It's the latter, of course. A balanced tank, a balanced system in nature, a balanced pond is many feet deep of substrate, of mud on the bottom, if you will, sand, whatever it's going to be. It's deep. It's not shallow and skinny. So, rule number one, if you want to have a balanced tank, you must have a deep substrate. Oh, but the people who know nothing about it say, oh, but it's going to create gas. And what are you going to do about that? Well, now, do you believe that the ocean creates gas, that ponds create gas, and that somehow those gases poison everything? Of course they don't. Once it's set up, brand new, it may very well create gas bubbles. It's the action of all the stuff you got in there. And I put a lot of stuff in mine, and there's a lot of action. What does it do? What happens to it? It bubbles up. And where do the bubbles go? Up and out. They go into the atmosphere. They go into the air. They don't roll around in the water. They don't stay down in the sand. They're up and out. They're gone. And the primary one is what? Nitrogen, the most plentiful gas on the earth. That's not going to hurt anything. There are other gases, but it's all the same. They're up and out. They don't affect the water. Now, what do I do to protect the water from the substrate? Because if you've got a rich substrate, a lot of compost there, a lot of soil, all of that, what do? You don't want it mixed up in the water. What do? You cap it. What do you cap it with? Rocks? No, that won't work. Gravel? That won't work. You cap it with sand. Why does that work? Because sand slows down the water flowing through it. Gravel doesn't. You can flow water through gravel as fast as you can push it out of a hose. And it'll wash everything right up and out. Anything you cap with gravel is going to wash out. So don't do that. Cap it with sand, and the finer the better. Doesn't need to be super fine sand. It can be any sand at all. Doesn't matter. Cap it with sand. How much? Minimum 2 inches. Minimum 2 inches. With a small tank, 2 inches is adequate. With a big tank like the one in back of me, I've got 4 to 6 inches of sand on top of 2 to 3 inches of dirt. Now, what does that do? That creates a balanced environment in which waste is able to flow through. Oh, they say, oh no, it doesn't. It doesn't flow through. It's so slow as to be negligible. Correct. Correct. You ever think about the fact that every mountain on the earth moves? Every mountain moves. Does it move fast enough to watch it? Does it move fast enough that in your lifetime you're going to see movement? No. It moves very slowly, but move it does. Waste precipitating into the sand moves very slowly, but move it does. It may take a year for the waste, the mulm, to get down into that substrate and reach into the deeper layers where it can be broken down and made available as nutrition for the plants that are reaching down in there to find food. It might take a year. It might take 2 years. In point of fact, I put chemicals in that substrate that are not going to break down for a year to make sure there's nutrition there in the second and third year of that tank's life, so that it will not be dissipated. It will not become devoid of nutrition, so that by the third and the fourth year, the mulm and the other waste that's going down into that tank has reached the bottom, has broken down, has become nutrition, and is taken up by the roots. By the third, fourth, fifth year, these are stable, balanced aquariums. And that's how you achieve it, by taking time and giving the aquarium the substance, the structure that it needs in order to be able to achieve and maintain that balance. Deep substrate. You cannot do it without deep substrate. You cannot. It cannot happen without deep substrate. Why? Because balance requires anaerobics. Ooh, anaerobics, that's poisonous. Yes, it is. It's poisonous. That is to say, it lacks oxygen. It's not poisonous. It lacks oxygen. And what happens in the absence of oxygen? You know what a septic tank is? A septic tank. That's where the waste produced in one's home is broken down. It is devoid of oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, anaerobic bacteria breaks down waste into its component parts and makes them accessible to plants that they may be taken up and used to construct new plants. That's the balance. The balance can only occur if there are anaerobics. What do you do to keep the anaerobics away from the water, out of the water column? Why, you cap it with sand, 2 inches minimum. In 2 inches, there's no oxygen down there. Water flows in 2 inches down, there's no oxygen. Below that is anaerobic. The water flows through, becomes less and less oxygenated. As it does, it gets down in here and it is anaerobic. And the waste breaks down. It may take a while. Yes, it will take a while. This system is only for people who want their tank to remain a viable, healthy tank for years. Not simply for a month or 2 or 6 months, but for years. And this will give it to you. Follow some of my other videos. I go through much of this in detail. But I felt the need to come out strongly and clearly in favor of a balanced aquarium, and to make clear that a balanced aquarium can only occur where there is a deep substrate and an ability for everything that's being created to go through the process of nurturing everything else. to create a cycle of life within your aquarium. That's what a balanced aquarium is. And that's what I challenge you to achieve in your system, in your tanks. It's not hard to do. It's very easy to do. Follow Father Fish. He's got lots of videos, lots of live streams, lots of opportunities for you to learn how to do this. And you will find it will be the greatest success of your fish keeping career. Thank you for watching. Thank you for plugging in. Thank you for being a part of our world of balanced aquariums. Bye for now.